No, he did. Oh my God. He literally said Ukraine started it. What the I think he's talking about EU being upset that they hadn't been invited. I mean, he's literally saying you should have never started it. Is he talking about the EU or is he talking about, which by the way, I don't even know if this is like, okay, this is crazy. Oh my God. Bro, this is crazy. What the fuck? Yo, Donald Trump is saying shit that all of my haters think. Twitter is not just worse because it's all Nazis. Also, I like that you admit that it's just, you know, Nazis are right wing. So I'm glad that you at least come to that recognition because it's not just right wingers. It's quite literally Nazis. Okay. Like Adolf Hitler ads and stuff. Okay. So on that front, it's qualitatively worse. Yes. But that's not even what I was talking about. When I said Twitter is actually worse now, I'm talking about like the trending tab. Yeah. Nazis. Really, dude? Really? Yeah, Nazis in air quotes. Like, what does a dude have to say? They Sig Heil regularly on there, man. What are you talking about? Like, if those guys aren't Nazis, who's a fucking Nazi? Nobody's a Nazi. Adolf Hitler is not a Nazi, is what you're basically arriving at this point. What the hell? There is no way you are this stupid. Yeah, hundreds of millions of Nazis. Twitter is not used by hundreds of millions of Americans, you. It doesn't even have 20% of the entire, like, no. Hundreds of millions of Nazis. Yeah, no. You're in your fantasy, it's hundreds of millions of American patriots that are now rushing to use Twitter. That's not the case. Okay? Its user base has actually diminished since the Elon Musk takeover. Okay? God damn, you are so dumb. Yeah. The only extra motion on Twitter is now just bots. Okay? I wonder what this relatively small account that Elon Musk follows is. Oh, I see. It just posts porn and Nazism only. Yeah. Great stuff. He's like, oh, excuse me. Is this really a Nazi account? Yes. The answer is yes. Okay. Yes. They're posting swastikas. Yes. Wow. Look at this small account that Elon Musk follows. It's not subtle. This account tweets and retweets constantly about things like not wanting to hear R-worded blacks and their R-worded opinions, the need to make America blonde again, how America should be a white nation and celebrates Trump as the second coming of Hitler. Make South Africa white again. Make America blonde again. Really cool stuff. Wow, are you really saying? Yeah. What's next, Hasan? Are you going to say that this ad from Nixon Groyper is a Nazi ad? Imagine being born a Gentile in this generation on this continent located on an ocean away from Europe and viscerally hating this one foreign dictator from 80 years ago for no reason other than my teacher showed me Schindler's List or the museum tour guide told us he turned Jews into soap and still believing at the age of 30 or 40, Lamau. It's time to start reevaluating your perspective of history. That's just a pro-Hitler ad. Here's a pro-Hitler guy responding to Kyle Kulinski posting the pro-Hitler ad and going, Elon's site now has ads for Adolf Hitler, going, people are just asking questions, and rightfully so. Nixon Groyper. I don't understand. What's Nazi about that? Just curious. Just asking questions. Anyway, let's watch this other talk about his new executive orders before I get back to all of the government incompetence.
Here, I guess we can take a couple of quick questions. Go ahead, please. Please.
Specifically what the auto tariff rate should be?
Yeah, I probably will tell you that on April 2nd, but it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
What about semiconductors and pharmaceuticals?
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year. But we want to give them time to come in because, as you know, when they come into the United States and they have their plan here, there is no tariff. So we want to give them a little bit of a chance. Yes, thank you.
The EU representative is going to be tomorrow. He's going to be meeting with and Greer and Letnick. What can the EU do to sort of avoid the reciprocal tariffs that you've talked about? And you know, you've talked a lot about the VAT. Do you expect them to reduce that?
Well, they did already, as I understand it, reduce their car tariff all the way down to what we have. And a lot of that will take place, and I think some won't do it and some will do it. But the EU had a 10% tax on cars, and now they have a 2.5% tax, which is the
Please
exact
a little
same
louder.
as us.
I can't believe you guys want to hear
already
Trump.
We've saved a tremendous
But you got
amount.
it.
That would be great. If everybody would do that, then we'd all be on the same playing field. Because essentially what we're doing with the tariffs is, they charge us, we charge them, same amount. And it's called reciprocal, actually. And whatever they charge us, we're charging them. And so the EU is, I appreciate that they did this, but, the EU has been very unfair to us. We have a deficit of $350 billion. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products. They don't take almost anything. They take very little. And we're going to have to straighten that out. And we will. I have no doubt about it. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Russia talks, your impression of how they went today, and if you're perhaps more confident or less confident of a deal after what happened today?
Well, much more confident. They were very good. Russia wants to do something. They want to stop the savage barbarianism. I mean, what's going on over there? It's soldiers are being killed by the thousands on a weekly basis. It's ridiculous. And they're not American soldiers. They're Russian soldiers, and they're Ukrainian soldiers largely, although a lot of Koreans have been killed, as you know. Quite a bit of them have been killed. They came over to fight, and a large portion have been wiped out. But we want to end it. It's a senseless war. It should have never happened, would have never happened if I was president, and it's a shame to see it. And I see pictures that you don't see, but I see pictures of fields that look just horrible. It looks like Gettysburg. If you see the old pictures of Gettysburg, it's soldiers lying all over the field, body parts all over the field. They're all dead. And this is going on a daily basis. It's a horrible thing. Both Russia and Ukraine, they're losing thousands and thousands of soldiers, and a lot of people have been killed too. I think that's one of the things that you'll see historically, and you'll see later on as it goes along. I think people are going to be surprised at how many people, not only soldiers, have been killed in Ukraine. A lot more people than you think. Yeah, please.
President Trump, as part of a peace deal with Putin, would you be willing to consider removing all American troops from Europe?
Well, nobody's asked me to do that, so I don't think we'd have to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. But that question's never really come up. Yeah. Please.
Sir, do you support stationing European peacekeeping troops in Ukraine as part of this peace deal?
If they want to do that, that's great. I'm all for it. If they want to do that, I think that'd be fine.
Even if the Russians are
I mean, I know France has mentioned it. Others have mentioned it. UK has mentioned it. But, if we have a peace deal, I think having troops over there from the standpoint of Europe, we won't have to put any over there because, we're very far away. But having troops over there would be fine. I would not object to it at all. We're talking about this now, peace. We have either a ceasefire or a peace itself, and we're looking to do both. We'd start off with the ceasefire, and if they want to do that. I know France was willing to do that, and I thought that was a beautiful gesture. Yeah, please.
Do you have any message for Ukrainians who, after 3 years of fighting, might feel betrayed or disappointed at not having a seat at these initial talks in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think I'm really disappointed in what's happened. I've been watching this for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president, and I've been watching these people being killed at levels that you've rarely seen, not even close, since the Second World War. And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their sides. You have those magnificent golden domes that are shattered, will never be replaced. You can't replace them. 1,000-year-old domes that are so beautiful, you can't replace that. A whole civilization has changed because of what. So when they're worried about not being seated, you mean somebody that should have gone in and made a deal a long time ago, You could have made a deal. This is one that could have made a deal. There was no talk of this during the Trump administration. Putin would have never, ever done it. And by the way, we wouldn't have had October 7th. You know that? We wouldn't have had October 7th.
Another great deal for Trump.
And we wouldn't have had that mess that's going on over there.
He's like, Mr. Deal Maker.
We have great fire people here. We're putting out fires all over the world. So that wouldn't have happened. And you know what else wouldn't have happened? Inflation. Because it was caused really by the cost of energy going through the roof because of their bad energy policies and also their spending, their terrible spending, wasteful spending on the Green New Scam. It's a scam. It's a whole big scam.
Yeah, that's where the wasteful spending was. Once again,
I want to ask you a little closer to home. What would it take for you to reconsider the restrictions on the Associated Press? And secondly, some of your advisors are concerned with the Associated Press's style guide, using language and giving guidance to not use words like illegal immigrant or to use phrases like gender affirming care. And they're concerned about that being an encroaching amount of liberalism in the way in which the press writes about things. Do you share those concerns?
Well, I do think that some of the phrases that they want to use are ridiculous. And I think, frankly, they've become obsolete, especially in the last 3 weeks, because many things have happened in the last 3 weeks. And I didn't know about that, but I would say that if they want to use certain phrases like that, and I guess some are okay, but many aren't, but the Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I have the right to do it just like we have the right to do Mount McKinley, and nobody's even challenging that. But only the essentially it's primarily the Associated Press, and I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as they agree.
Insane.
It's the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country.
It is one of the dumbest, it is one of the stupidest ways to do government censorship, by the way. Just truly one of the stupidest things that has happened in an otherwise incredibly stupid administration, for the record. And the very fact that, like, other members of the media are not freaking out over this, or the very fact that the Mr. Free Speech defenders on the right are not freaking out over this is very telling, okay?
We're hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine.
Yeah, I wonder why. Come on, dude. Like, as critical as I am, like, come on. I wonder why they didn't have elections in Ukraine.
Blown to smithereens. You got most of the cities are laying on their sides. The buildings are collapsed. It looks like a massive demolition site.
Wow, I can't. No way. They had
so many of the.
No way. They had martial law in Ukraine. What happened? What happened? I wonder what happened in Ukraine that caused them to have martial law. Okay. And before people say there were elections during World War II, please, dude, please. Okay.
People of Ukraine have to say, like,
please.
It's a long time since we've had an election.
It is one of the few instances where it is permissible not to hold elections, okay? Like, come on. Come on, chatters.
It's literally, these cities look like Gaza. Actually, many have, percentage-wise, more buildings knocked down.
Ironically enough, if Donald Trump actually was not a moron and wanted to talk about, like, the illiberal aspects of Ukraine, he would talk about, like, banning leftist parties under the auspices of saying that they're pro-Russia. Okay? That, on its own, again, is a thing that the American government has also done in times of war, ironically enough. But that is, in my opinion, a greater indication of lack of liberalism, regardless of regardless of the war, the unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine or not. But he doesn't fucking care about that, because that would require him to assume a stance that is openly partisan for leftist ideology, I guess. Okay?
He's given $100 billion, and we've given, let's say, 300 plus, and it's more important for them than it is for us. We have an ocean in between, and they don't. But where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And nobody, I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't see any accounting. So
he's talking about Ukraine like he talks about Hamas. Yeah.
You know why I want?
Because he is brutally honest about American foreign policy. American foreign policy literally discards most of our allies, okay?
And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all
Did he just say Ukraine started the war?
He was so bad for this. It was so bad, so pathetic.
Did I misunderstand what he was saying? Hold on, I got to run it back.
That are being killed, and they're running of it. We give hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't see any accounting. So I want to see peace. Look, you know why I want? Because I don't want all these people killed anymore. I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
No, he did. Oh, my God. He literally said Ukraine started it? What the fuck? I think he's talking about EU being upset that they hadn't been invited. I mean, he's literally saying you should have never started it. Is he talking about the EU, or is he talking about, which, by the way, I don't even know if this is like, okay, this is crazy. Oh my God, bro, this is crazy. What the fuck? Yo, Donald Trump is saying shit that all of my haters think I say all the time. Okay? Like that is the president of the United States of America saying shit that most people online, most liberals online assume is my position on Ukraine. This is an insane thing to state, especially as the president of the United States of America. Like, Ukraine in this circumstance is the least responsible party for being invaded. I would go so far as to say that even American interference probably played more of a role than Ukraine in terms of who started it, okay? The number one responsible party is Russia, okay? Obviously, they fucking invaded the country. And Ukraine is not even remotely responsible for this. Sorry, that's ridiculous.
I could have made a deal for...
And neither is Europe. Europe just literally listens to the United States of America. What the fuck is this take? That is crazy.
For Ukraine. That would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all fairness, he doesn't have a clue. What he was so bad for this. It was so bad, so pathetic, so sad. But with all of that being said, look, it is what it is. When I left, there was no chance that this could have happened, but it happened because we had incompetent leadership at many different levels. But when you see what's taken place in Ukraine with millions of people killed, including the soldiers, millions of people killed, a big percentage of their cities knocked down to the ground. I don't know how anybody even lives there. You know, when they say they took a poll and Zelensky's at 4%, who's living there? You know, I mean, people are... It's hard to believe.
This chatter is so funny. If China was working with Mexico to encroach on our borders, we wouldn't invade. Dog, you're saying that right now. Donald Trump is unironically saying that. Like, he hasn't gotten to that part of the equation yet. He just says, oh, he has to tackle the cartel or whatever. But like, yeah, this administration has a lot of appetite for bombing Mexico. Okay? And my answer is, no, we shouldn't bomb Mexico, let alone fucking invade it. Are you insane? Hello? What are you saying? That is a psychotic... Why would you come up with a psychotic position that basically is the Trump administration's position and then bring it in here and be like, huh, you think insert psychotic position to the Trump administration? You think you wouldn't be in favor of that? Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be in favor of that, actually. What are you saying? Insane.
That would be a capitulation of some sort. How would you guard against potentially Russia installing a puppet government? And then finally, how would that new election have an impact on getting Zelensky to sign the rare earth minerals deal?
Look, you have leadership, and I like him personally. He's fine. But
not as much as he likes Putin, though. Jesus Christ.
Getting the job done. You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on that should have never even happened, even without the United States. Look, we had a president who was grossly incompetent. He had no idea what he was doing. He said some very stupid things, like going in for portions and all of the things. He made a lot of bad statements, but he's grossly incompetent, and I think everyone knew that. This is something that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President Putin and I would talk about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never a chance of him going in. And I told him, you better not go in. Don't go in. Don't go in. And he understood that. He understood it fully. But I'm only interested. I want to see if I can save maybe millions of lives. This could even end up in a World War III. I mean, to be honest with you, you've been hearing now Europe is saying, well, I think we're going to go in and we're going to go. All of a sudden, you're going to end up in World War III over something that should have never happened. And, you know, it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a DOJ employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today
well, Elon
what his
Musk,
exact role is there?
Yeah. Elon is, to me, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want. But he's a patriot. I mean, look at the kind of things. I just said, just write it down, just in case that question got asked, right? And which I'm surprised it took so long, actually. But you know what? Ukraine's a bigger deal because people are dying by the thousands a week, thousands. But look at this, from 90 to 99, Social Security, 6,054,000 people. Well, that's okay, maybe that's possible. You know, 90 to 99, maybe it's possible. It's a lot of people, though, at that. But people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot. That means over 100 years old. They're 4 million people. I don't know too many. I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100. But over 120, from 120 years old, people that are 120 years old up to 129, 3,472,000 people. Wow. You know, that can't possibly be because the record is like, I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127, but they have 3,472. Okay, but now we're going really in. People from 130
I haven't even gotten
old,
to this part of the broadcast yet, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. This is also incorrect. Once again, lying is so overpowered. Please nerf. Lying OP. Please nerf. This server is busted, okay? Lying is far too OP. Please nerf. Mods!
140 years old and beyond. Now we're really going because we're looking to break the record by 25 years. People from 150 years old to 159 years old. 1,345,000. These are in the, by the way, these are in the computer files. This is what they do well.
The worst part about this is just like the government is run by incompetent morons, okay? And they're just actively lying. And people don't have any critical thinking skills and quite literally just go, that makes sense. Yeah, I hate the government. And my favorite guy is just saying this. And he's saying it in a way that like agrees with my existing biases. So I'm going to believe him. Fuck you.
They're super. I asked Elon, who are these Doge people? He said they're super brilliant computer people and they love the country. It's simple. Wait a minute. People from 160 years old to 169 years, 121,000. So 160-year-old
I don't think he's actually lying. He actually fucking doesn't know or understand how that works. Yes, but
6,
Elon is lying. Like, they're stupid, but they're still lying. They're lying to the American public. Okay? The idea that there are 400 million people currently getting Social Security benefits is wrong. It's just not correct. You are not interpreting the data correctly because you're a fucking idiot. Okay? There's an answer for this. And I will explain to you why this inconsistency is now being presented as what the government is doing.
In 087. But now, let's go into the real numbers. From 200 to 209 years old,
So now you're smarter than Elon Musk?
879 people.
What?
From 210 years old. I haven't met any of them. And if I did, I would bless them. I would worship the ground they walk on.
I'm smart enough to understand.
I'm
smart enough to understand that when a bunch of 19-year-old coders actually come to me and say that there are more people on Social Security payrolls than there are people in the United States of America, I'm smart enough to go, this seems like a false interpretation of the data. Okay? That's just a little bit of critical thinking. Okay? So clearly, I guess in this instance, and just this instance alone, the answer is yes. Okay? That's it. That's it. When someone talks about a person, for example, getting Social Security payments that literally from a time when Social Security as a concept didn't exist, okay? The idea that someone has been getting paid Social Security payments for a longer period of time than the existence of Social Security means that I am looking at the data falsely, okay? I am interpreting the data incorrectly. That's it. Yes, I know it's the programming language. I haven't gotten there yet. The 160-plus-year-old stuff is because the programming language they used, COBOL, which is super old, apparently. The defaults to January 1st, 1950 or something if a date is missing. Yes. There's incomplete data, and it automatically, if there's incomplete data on the dates, it automatically assumes that it's 1875 or something, okay? Or 1850 or something. Yes, I know. I read the Wired article as well. My point is, your haters gonna eat good with that clip? Wait, what? What clip? Haters are gonna... I'm done. Okay, if anybody fucking brings up haters and how clips are gonna be clipped out of context and people are, people are gonna eat good with that clip, I'm just gonna start banning you guys for a week. I don't care, man. What are you talking about? What the fuck does that even mean? Please. Jesus Christ, it's so fucking annoying. Stop being cowardly little weirdos about what the haters are going to say. Yes, dude, I get clipped out of context all the fucking time. You know this already, all right? You know this. Move on. Stop fantasizing about what the fucking quote-unquote haters are going to do. Jesus Christ.
Those 800
so annoying.
And 66. From 220 years old to 229 years old, 1,039. And then
90% of the time, it's not even something that is like clippable.
249 years old, one person. And there's one person that's 360 years old. That's just that. And then, where's the money being spent, right? Let's go into that for just a second. $520 million for a consultant on the environment. It's called environmental social.
1850 is year zero in the meter convention. Thank you.
In governance, investments in Africa, and mobilize private sector resources. $520 million. Somebody got $520 million for an environmental. Sounds like an environmental study. I've always been one that paid a lot of money for my environmental studies, but I paid like $50,000, not $520 million.
1875, 2025 minus
ESG.
1875, 150. Next year, there'll be records of
$25
151 year
million
olds.
to promote biodiversity, conservation, and promote licit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in the country of Colombia. Well, it's nice, $25 million to go into Colombia for something that nobody ever heard of. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $40 million. $42 million for Johns Hopkins, great place, to research and drive social and behavior change in Uganda. $42 million. What about us? What about social change in our country? $70 million for a center at Purdue to research university-sourced, evidence-based solutions to developmental challenges. I mean, these are massive numbers on things that nobody ever heard about. $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcisions. $10 million for circumcisions in another country. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. In other words, let's teach them something about enterprise. What about our people? Can't we teach them about enterprise? $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. $32 million to the Prague Civil Society Center, which is a very liberal group of people. Wonder how much of that money
These
came
guys
back
are
to the
so
people that
he's so
approved it.
dumb.
$14 million for
He's so
improving
dumb.
public procurement in Serbia. $486 million.
I wonder what the usage. I wonder what the reasons for why we have these civil society organizations that we are funding. Much to consider here. Maybe because we want to make Serbia woke, I think.
Money. They're one of the highest taxing countries in the
I
world.
wonder if we'll talk about Israel at all in this process, by the way, in terms of
I have
expenditures.
a lot of respect for India. I have a lot of respect for the Prime Minister. He just left, as you know, 2 days ago. But we're giving $21 million for voter turnout. It's voter turnout in India. What about, like, voter turnout here? Oh, we've done that, I guess. We did $500 million, didn't we? It's called the lockboxes. $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. Listen to these numbers. This is all fraud. $19 million for biodiversity conservation in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence. We want to give them confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well. They're doing a lot better than we do in the schools, aren't they? $2 million to develop sustainable recycling models to increase socioeconomic cohesion among marginalized communities in Kosovo and Eskali and in Egypt. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. I could, by the way, I could read this all day long. I could go on all day long, and you'll see hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're doing it. But when I saw the Social Security numbers, I said, wow, that's really something. So we have, let's just go above 100 years old. We have millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Everybody knows that's not so. We have a very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. Now, the good thing about Social Security and what I read is if you take all of those numbers off, because they're obviously fraudulent or incompetent, but if you take all of those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security with people that are 80 and 70 and 90, but not 200 years old. You know, so it's a very positive thing. How about over here? Yeah, please. Your reaction to Michelle had resigning after the Doge. Who resigned? I don't know. I mean, I resigned or got fired. I think got fired. You know, when you fire somebody, they always resign, and then they say, we resigned. But when you have numbers like that, I think really it's got fired. They have to get fired. Who would keep them? How could you have numbers like this? Now, the big thing is, how many of these people got paid? Were they getting paid? Were they getting paid? How many of them were getting paid Social Security because of fraud? We'll have to call those great Palm Beach police into this situation, right? You guys would figure that out very quickly. But how many of them are being paid? I mean, maybe millions of them, but it's a total fraud. Also, a lot of illegal immigrants are in Social Security that shouldn't be there. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Mr. President, there was a big wave of probationary federal workers who were fired over the weekend. Some of these workers focused on nuclear weapon security were immediately rehired. Do you have any concerns about how these terminations have
No,
been?
not at all. I think we have to just do what we have to do. It's, you know, you're going to, it's amazing what's been found right now. It's amazing. If we feel that in some cases they'll fire people and then they'll put some people back, not all of them, because a lot of people were let go. Don't forget, I got elected on the basis of making our government stronger and smaller, because we have millions of people that obviously they're paying millions of people that shouldn't be paid. And that has also to do with workers. Yeah, please. No, go ahead. Axios, New York Times.
Sorry. Mr. President, given your concerns about corruption, you said that if there were any conflicts of interest with Elon Musk, you wouldn't let him anywhere near it.
That's right.
Doge and SpaceX employees are now working directly at the Federal Aviation Administration and the Defense Department, agencies that have billions of dollars in contracts with Musk's companies or that directly regulate his companies. How is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, I'm just hearing about it, and if there is, and he told me before I told him, but obviously I will not let there be any conflict of interest. He's done an amazing job. They've revealed, in fact, he's going to be on tonight, a big show called Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock, and he's on and I'm on, and we talk about a lot of different things. And any conflicts, I told Elon, any conflicts, you can't have anything to do with that. So anything to do with possibly even space, we won't let Elon partake in that. Yeah, please.
On immigration, sir, you said you would be sending the worst of the worst to Guantanamo Bay. What we're finding out is that there are a lot of low-risk migrants who don't have a criminal background who are also being sent. Are you thinking about this differently now?
No, they're going to be brought back to their countries. And with some persuasion, every one of those countries, everyone in the, as you know, every country is taking the people back. So some of them are going to be brought back to, many of them, any of them that are low risk, as you say, are going to be brought back to their countries. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Can you give us a bit of an update on where you stand with Venezuela?
Yeah,
it's
sure.
real. There's basically a monthly license that can soon extend.
Well, you know, we had Venezuela on the run, and it looked like that was going to be very good. And when Biden came in, as he always does, he screws it up. And they started buying millions and millions and millions of dollars of oil, billions of dollars actually, of oil, and it gave them a new lease, a new really lease on life. But we'll see. We had some pretty good discussions with a lot of people within our government, in the United States government, that are involved in that. And Venezuela's a little
No,
bit
you don't
early,
understand. Biden has been the shadow president in perpetuity.
taking the beautiful, as I call it, liquid gold. We have more than anybody. They started paying a fortune to Venezuela, and we're looking at that actually. Why did they do that? Why were they doing that? Why would they go to the enemy and give them billions and billions of dollars? Now, with that being said, as you know, Venezuela has said very strongly they will not take any illegal immigrant, any of the people that they sent over to us. They sent their gangs, probably the worst gang anywhere in the world, as bad as MS-13, maybe worse, and they came out of the jails of Venezuela. They emptied their jails into our country, and they said, we'll never take them back. Well, they took them back, and they're taking them back, and they are taking them back rapidly. They were sending a lot of people to Venezuela. They said they wouldn't take them back, and they are taking back. But we're looking at Venezuela very seriously, and we're going to be able to, don't forget, I've only been here for 3 weeks. Yeah, please.
Just a little clarity on, are you inclined to continue to allow Venezuela, through I think Chevron and other oil companies, to export those petroleum products, or are you
maybe
trying
not
to pull back?
Yeah, maybe not. We're looking at that now. I just got here. When I left, they weren't doing anything. They were ready to go. We give up. And then Biden came along and he gave them literally billions of dollars. I couldn't believe it, actually. And we have so much under our feet, liquid gold. We have so much, and it was pretty amazing. So we're looking at that whole situation, why he did it. But how about one more? Yeah, please.
President, what can you tell us about the CIA drone flights over Mexico? Is this the next step in the war against the cartels?
Well, we're going to see.
Should they have authority to take legal action?
Mexico's allowed a tremendous number of people to go through their country into ours, and even people coming from Mexico, and illegals, totally illegal. They've allowed people to empty jails into Mexico and then let them come through with this totally ridiculous open border policy of the Biden administration. So millions of people have come in, and hundreds of thousands, and actually millions, are criminals. They came in from jails all over the world. They'd release them into Mexico, and they come into our country. And they also came in from Canada, by the way, large numbers through Canada. In fact, when we closed up the one border, they came in through the other border. So Canada is not an uninterested party. But I will say this. We're dealing with Mexico. I have a very good relationship with Mexico, but I think Mexico is largely run by the cartels, and that's a sad thing to say. And if they wanted help with that, we'd give them help. But Mexico, if you look at what's gone on with Mexico for years now, but now especially, it's run by the cartels, and they've allowed millions of people to come into our country from jails and prisons of other countries from all over the world, not just South America, Africa, Asia, all over. A lot from the Congo in Africa, a lot. They opened their jails. They came in through Mexico. And we have some of the worst criminals coming in from the Congo and other places. So it's not just South America, and it's not just Venezuela, but they open their jails. And you know, the crime rates in Venezuela and other places all over the world has gone way down. You know why? Because they've given us their prisoners, they've given us their drug lords and their gang members. And it's hard to believe that we accepted this. It's hard to believe that we allowed open borders, and we're taking in, you know, hundreds of thousands and millions of people coming in from all over the world. They're absolute stone cold.
It's pretty crazy that all of these violent criminals from all around the world are coming to America. And yet, instead of doing crimes, they're actually, unironically, through their presence and their proclivity to do less crime, as opposed to the existing natural-born U.S. population, lowering the crime rate in the United States of America across the board. It's crazy. I guess, like, when they come to America, they just no longer want to do crimes. Magically. You know, they're like, oh, yeah, well, we got jobs here, so no reason to do crimes. I guess that's what it is. America, truly the nation of rehabilitation. Wonderful stuff.